Okay, so now to install this, what you do is you take the end with the fixed loop on it, and you're going to want to put that lark's head onto this. So what you're going to do is you're going to put it through here, just like this. And this end, remember, that's the end of the tunnel, so it's going to have two things coming out of it. Go all the way through here, and this little tail end too. And now you'll see that's on securely. All right, that's not going to go anywhere. We'll put the same thing on the other end, and then we'll show you how this all comes together.
Good idea. Go.
Okay, so now we're ready to hang it. What I have here is the hammock is set up. It's attached over to this post right there. And you can see what I did is this long loop right here is attached to this carabiner. This carabiner happens to be attached to this little piece of IKEA ceiling chair hanging thing on this post. And I know what you're wondering, why do I have it like that? Because if I go like this, I have metal on metal, and as you lay in it, you'll hear like a little bit of that. So this insulates the sound. You'll notice this is way too long for this environment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it smaller. I'm going to make this loop a lot smaller. I can make it almost infinitely smaller. Okay, so that's small. And on this other side, I've got this attached right here. So now, I always go a little bit higher, because once you get in it, it's going to settle a little. So let's see how this hangs. The first lay is always the scariest. Okay. So you always want to lay diagonal in a hammock. That way you get a much flatter lay. See, I'm putting my head as far over as I can get it. My feet also as far over as I can get them. Sometimes you end up with a little wall there. That's totally fine. Nothing to worry about or be concerned with. So you can see this is a little bit tight. I can barely get any play out of it with me laying in it. That's okay. Not ideal, but it works just fine. This is your completed hammock. I'll give you some other tips on installing it. This is an ideal environment in the basement because I have the hooks already set up to put everything in there. But I'll show you how to install this if it were a tree that you're hanging onto. And you'll notice in here there's folds where where the two layers meet. I could easily put a pad right here diagonally through. I'd be laying underneath the pad between the two layers, and it'd stay securely in place. So that's nice insulation for the bottom. I'll now show you how to install the hammock on a tree. Pretend this fine post here is a tree. What you want to do is loop around the tree. I'm going to go all the way around, and see one end has a loop sewn onto it. You just want to pass the long end through right here. In this case, I'll pass it through, and I'll just tighten that up right here. The next step is to make this complicated knot where you put your hand. It's really not complicated, but it kind of boggles your mind first time you try it. Put your hand in place, bring this up, and cross it over. So you got this loop right here. Alternatively, you can just cross it like that, whatever you want to do. So you cross, and then I put my fingers through the back of the loop, and I come up and I grab up. The number one rule of hammocking, never hang a hammock higher than you're willing to fall. Okay? Because if you do fall, you don't want to hurt yourself. That is very important. So let's try that again. Make the little knot right here. This time I'm clipping my carabiner into it. And I'm going to attach the loop into the carabiner. Now you'll see with this method, as long as your strap is long enough to go around a tree, you can hang off of any tree you possibly want. The general rule of thumb is you can hang off of a tree that's about as thick as your forearm. I prefer thigh as a general rule. So if I have a tree that's that thick, I can hang off of it, generally speaking. Always get in the first time a little bit gently and gradually rock a little bit and make sure that it's going to hold your weight. You'll notice that carabiner staying in place nicely. I don't have anything to worry about. And I have hung off of trees with a stick that I found in a field. I guess I should go with one slightly thicker than that. So that's an important thing. But you can see you just put a strap on both ends on a tree and you're good to go. You can hang, and remember to hang diagonal. Your number one thing you're gonna have to worry about probably is making sure you have some kind of insulation underneath you. That's the kind of the Achilles heel of hammocks, is making sure that you do. And I'm gonna go ahead and put a pad in here and show you how that looks. Okay, what I've done is install a giant foam pad in here. You can see how big it is. That's what it looks like on the single layer. And now if I go ahead and just spread out the second layer on top of it, that will help keep it in place. You notice how I've installed it diagonally with one tip to one tip here. That's to get the most lay out of it as possible, the flattest lay as possible. I want to make sure everything's in. Okay, good. This is where it might come in handy if these edges were sewn together, because it would help keep those ends in place. But now, as I get in, feel that really, the insulation of it. I'm in a basement here, as what most basements are. They're a little bit cooler. You can see I'm inside. There's a little bit of adjustment here when you first get in. You can see this edge popped out a little. No problem, I'll just tuck that back in. Now I could put a blanket on top of me. I don't need any insulation underneath me. A sleeping bag sleeping inside of it with the bottom underneath me serves no purpose, because the insulation's already there with the foam pad. That'll provide me plenty of insulation for probably be good with this foam pad down below freezing easily. I'd say probably 20 degrees. Your butt wouldn't get cold at all with this foam pad easily. So anyway, if this was bugging me, I would sew it up. Sew up one side and then leave maybe like this much unsewn, and do the same thing on this side right here. Then I'd have a nice diagonal spot to put my pad in. In fact, maybe we'll do that real quick. Anyway, so that's it. Okay, so what we went ahead and did is we sewed up the edges just to make it a little cleaner. We sewed up to right here on this side and up to right here on this side. So we're leaving ourselves about 2 feet or so on each edge. So the way I put these pads in is I fold it up like a little sandwich and then put it on in between here. Just load it in. Keep the sandwich going. Just wanted to show you it can be done with one person. It's easier with 2 people, because at this point you could have someone on the other end grabbing it, but you can do it with 2. And then you let the burrito unroll inside here. See, it's a little unwieldy. Make sure your corner's over here. But it can work. Sometimes, like, this foam gets caught on stuff, which is good once it's in place. So I just want to make sure it's released and it's not binding on this. And now we're almost there. Also, I wanted to show you, I replaced the carabiner and put a tent stake in there, aluminum tent stake. So that doesn't weigh a lot, and it's real secure. And you'll notice, again, this is set up so that it's on the knot. See how I apply pressure, it's going to apply to that knot. This would be the wrong way to do it. Right here. See how the pressure, when it pulls, it's going to be against the aluminum stake there. We don't want that. Just move it up a little bit so it seats against that knot. So I'm going to go ahead and try getting in here now with it all sewn in. You can see it's a lot easier to get in. This is kept together. Everything's just a little bit tighter and easier to use. So that's how you do it. And generally, if I had the room to backpack in something like this giant foam pad, I would. If not, you can use a camping pad that you would normally use when you take backpacking or something like that. But I would always recommend, before you go and commit to a camping trip, go outside to your backyard or a park or something and install the hammock with the insulation you're going to use at, maybe in the evening time at dusk when it's starting to get cold, and just lay in it for 10 or 15 minutes and make sure everything's dialed in. You never want to go out there and realize, oh, that wasn't enough insulation for me. I'm going to be cold, So, anyway, there you go. This is all set.